photos published by a British tabloid show Maryland Governor Wes Moore and his wife Dawn aboard George Clooney's yacht sailing on Lake Como in Italy. Mike, Governor Moore continually denies that he has any interest in running for president in 2028, yet going to pay homage to George Clooney, the man who single-handedly took down Joe Biden's presidential bid in 2024, is a statement of significance, don't you think?
Not really. I mean, I think it'd be a really cool invite if you got to go on George Clooney's yacht in Lake Como. I have no idea what the details are around that. So there's a picture that showed they were there. At this point, I don't see it for much more than that personally.
Oh, come on. You don't think he was trolling for dollars? I mean, you can have a fishing line
there's not an elected official out there that's not trolling for dollars. They're always trolling for dollars. So I can't speak to the circumstances that got him there. And if the opportunity presented itself, and I don't think Governor Moore is unambitious, and it is, as you'll get to our next segment, there's a fairly wide open race out there for president. I don't think he's planning on it necessarily, but I don't necessarily know that means he's ruled out completely either. And so if there are folks to talk to and get tea leaves read, that's probably not a bad thing to do, and keep options open and see where things go.
Well, let's see what Stacey has to say. Earlier, Stacey, in August, before his Italian vacay, Governor Moore took some jabs at President Trump and the suggestion that the president would send National Guard troops into Baltimore City, which, by the way, U.S. News and World Report ranks as the fourth most dangerous city in the nation, behind Memphis, Oakland, and St. Louis. So is Governor Moore simply playing the identity-based orthodoxy here?
Casey, first, I'd like to say Governor Moore should be careful because Kamala Harris took a figurative ride on the SS Clooney, which turned out to be a trip on the Titanic. Look, in my estimation, Governor Moore is Gavin Newsom without the hair or the political experience. They're both slick and know it's politically expedient. But Newsom will roll in the mud with a pig, while Moore prefers to take bets on the sidelines in a clean suit. I just say, make no mistake, he's a progressive Democrat who plays in Clooney's far-left playpen. He strongly backs Maryland's push for 100% clean electricity by 2035. He's pro-Kerwin and expanded school spending. Well, we maintain pretty dismal test scores. He's pro-sanctuary policies, and he's strong on social justice causes, but he's all about packaging. He frames his agenda in terms of service and unity, opportunity, instead of sounding like a hard activist. So I think that he's trying to appeal to a broader spectrum of Democrats. I can't blame him, but I watched him do a segment on Bret Baier's special report this past July, and I thought it was pretty brave of him, first of all. But I've never seen a politician do more to say less than Governor Moore while making it sound like unicorns are being bred in Maryland.
That's kind of fascinating. I was going to say, listening to the president's cabinet meeting sounded an awful lot like that, with unicorns floating around.
Well, but the nice thing about that, Mike, is he did it from the tomb. They had predicted that he was dead. So the fact that he was able to
I don't know if they predicted or if it was hopeful. I'm not sure which, but
was pretty amazing. Anyway, Mike, CNN pollster Harry Entienne points out that for the first time since 1992, when Bill Clinton surprised Democrats and won the nomination over Dick Gephardt, among others, that no single Democrat has emerged as a national early poll leader. Does this give the Moore campaign, a greater chance for success? Or are we going to have to wait and see how this legislative session turns out before we start considering him a serious candidate?
I think there are a lot of. We looked back in 2016, when there were 16 Republican candidates at that point in time. So, I think now that the fact that there is not a single front runner is probably actually a really good thing, and I think it provides opportunity for those Democrats who are actually delivering real and substantive services to the residents of their communities the opportunity to run for president. So I think that if he's providing those elements, I think that opens the door for him as well as a lot of other Democrats.
We're talking politics and we're talking strategy. Stacey, many believe that the open border issue was the most prominent reason for Donald Trump's victory in 2024, and that Democrats' failure now to address crime will be the most significant issue in 2026. Now, I want to point out one thing. Last week, Governor Moore was very strident in the fact that he didn't want Donald Trump to intrude in Baltimore City. Yesterday, I understand, he said it would be okay if the FBI came in, but not the National Guard. What do you think is out there, Stacey?
So I think that that's a prudent move on his part. And I think that any of these governors that are saying, no, we don't want you in our state are making a big mistake if they have an eye on 2028. Because if Trump comes in or sends in federal troops or whatever, and it fails, then they blame Trump. But if it comes in, they can take co-ownership of it. And so that it's a winning proposition, I think, for both of them. But Casey, when you were talking about, you're talking about crime. Is crime going to be a significant issue in 2026? And I think personally, if the economy goes off track, then it will be the most significant issue in 2026. The economy is an underlying reason for some increased crime. So theoretically, you can kill two birds with one stone by strengthening the economy and opportunity. And I think Trump has done an outstanding job on delivering what he promised by closing the border and deporting some of the most dangerous illegal immigrants here. And I'm likewise impressed with his increasingly aggressive battle against crime. And I hope that Moore is on board with that. But big ticket prices on insurance, utilities, the cost of housing, they aren't getting any better. And in my personal opinion, if Trump and Congress don't get to work on this, they're going to and really beef up the economy before the midterm election, I think we could have some painful losses in 2026.
Well, Mike, we had a very bad jobs report that came out just the other day. And in fact, the revision for July was even worse. And so that may mean that the economy is going to be the single featured topic in 2026, not crime, not anything else.
No, I think that's true. I think crime is an issue. I think Democrats have to recognize that and understand it and have strategies to address it. I think that the president has manufactured a lot of what he's created to try to demonstrate that there are issues out there. There's higher crime rates in most of the Republican cities than there are in any of those that are led by Democrats. But that seems not to be an issue, which is stunning to me. But nevertheless, I've listened to the governor of Mississippi tried to say why it was more important to send federal troops or National Guard troops to D.C. than it was to defend Jackson, which has twice the crime rate that D.C. has. But it was fell on pretty deaf ears. But nevertheless, I think the economy, I agree with Stacey. I think the economy is going to be an issue. I don't think the policies we've put in place so far are consequential. I think the jobs report shows this. I think the economy is slowing. I think that's why Trump is really pushing to try and get the Fed to address interest rates, because he's got really nothing else left to play with, because everything else we put in play isn't working. And so we'll have to see what happens. But I agree that I think the economy will be the issue, and I think it's going to continue to move in the Democratic direction.